Hi there, and welcome back to Her New Lens. Today we're talking about love, not just the kind of love you want, but the love you believe is possible. This episode is about shifting the inner lens through which you see love, worthiness, and connection so you can attract a relationship that reflects your truth, not your old wounds. So let's get started. We are going to be diving into more about the science, the method, the mystery of attracting love. And by breaking it down the way we're going to today, you may find it's not quite as overwhelming as you may have once thought. There actually is a reason for things that happen. It's not completely random, and I'm going to be sharing lots of reasons, lots of examples, so let's get started. The first thing I'm going to be talking about are the old lenses of love. So you know what that is. It's growing up, you may have been conditioned, as I talked about before in the very first podcast, about how when we're very young, we're given lenses to wear that are basically the collective view of all the caregivers we have in our life at that time. And unless you're very lucky, you may have some lenses that need to be changed. Some examples of lenses that you might be wearing without even realizing it are, number one, a scarcity lens. Somewhere along the way, do you believe you see scarcity when you think about love, when you think about possibilities? Then you might be looking through a scarcity lens. Another one, and a very common one, is the wounded lens. And there's still a lot of hurt and a lot of sadness, and it's affecting the lens through which you are experiencing dating, which you're experiencing relationships, which you're experiencing meeting new people. So that's another one. And another one that I see very commonly is a performance lens, which is you feel you have to somehow perform, you have to measure up, you have to, in a way, compete to be loved. You have to be the best at something to be loved. You have to be super successful to be loved. And all of those are just examples of lenses that you might be wearing that are impacting and affecting how you are attracting love. Because if you're looking through the wounded lens, you may not even see clearly who you're with. You may not see the possibilities there, or you may be ignoring red flags because there's a part of the wounded version, the wounded lens, that is attracting pain. So we're going to be looking deeper at these lenses. It's crazy to think about how much our views on love shapes the experience we have of it. But the thing is, it's so real. If you don't see yourself clearly with the truth of who you are, what you deserve, it's very difficult to attract it. So by peeling away layers, we're going to get really clear about what you want, what you deserve, and we're going to be able to work through changing that lens that you're viewing to see things way more clearly, way more quickly. So when you think about all of these lenses, these three lenses I've shared, and I'm going to add a fourth one, a fear lens, a lens of fear where there's a part of you that doesn't know if you'll ever get what you really want. And even just wearing that one, it's vague, but wearing that can really decrease your likelihood of attracting love because you're afraid of not getting it someday. It's a block. It's putting a wall up. So we have to look at that one too. So I've just offered 4 different lenses: a scarcity lens, the wounded lens, the performance lens, and the fear lens. Can you tell me if you really take a look at yourself and think about what lenses you are seeing through in your dating life? Do any of those ring true for you? And if not, what lenses have you been viewing your dating life through? Can you imagine how different it would feel if you were to change that lens into something more hopeful, more certain, more clear, more worthy? And imagine just changing that lens for that one date. how that could change what you're seeing and how you respond to what you're seeing. So the next area I want to talk about is the love blueprint you inherited. So this is a step below the lens. So we know we have a lens. We know that it may not be ideal. Now we're going to go a little bit deeper into the blueprint that you have inherited. Before we can shift your lens, we need to understand where it came from. And I've mentioned this before, but it's our early environment, the culture, our caregivers, what the love vibe was in your home, in your childhood home, all influences our internal story about love. Maybe you saw real connection in your family home when you were really young, or maybe you saw more along the lines of codependency. Maybe you learned that love means that you abandon yourself, or maybe you learned that love means you sacrifice yourself. Maybe you thought that love was something you had to earn. So all of these things can change the way you see love through your lens, which makes so much sense. I love this quote by Esther Perel when she says, "The quality of your relationships depends on the quality of the story you tell yourself about love." So again, I know it can be painful to do this, but to actually look at what story you're telling yourself about love, taking a very clear, honest, brave, courageous look at that story. And then when you do that, you can begin to rewrite it. But without rewriting it, you're just wearing those lenses all the time and you're not getting the results. So the question I want to ask you, going a step deeper, is what story did you inherit? Does it still serve you? Another quote I want to share by John Gottman of The Love Prescription is, "The more thorough your mapping of each other's inner landscape is, the more comprehensively you'll understand not only your partner's ideas, but also their past and how it shaped them." So another thing I wanted to say is understanding your own love blueprint not only helps you to be able to meet someone someday that you really, really align with, but it also helps your partner to understand you because you understand yourself. And the more you understand yourself, your own blueprint, the more power you have over acknowledging the lenses you've been wearing and then changing those lenses. So this is all really powerful. Now kind of moving up, now we're going to the next level, which is the energy of attraction. Your energy is the magnet that will attract the love you seek. It's not something out there. It's not something superficial. It's really about your energy. Energy is the magnet. It is the most powerful thing you have. Energy is not just what you say or do. It's how you feel, what you believe, and how you see yourself. If you carry the energy of doubt, fear, unworthiness, you're going to attract relationships that reflect that back to you. When you carry the energy of worthiness, clarity, joy, and trust, you become a magnet for love that meets you there. Now I'm going to talk about someone interesting. David Hawkins, he created the emotional vibration scale that I'm going to link below in the notes. And what he says is basically all living things are connected on vibrational energy levels. Our basic emotional state is picked up and reacted to by all life forms around us. It is well known that animals can instantly read a person's basic emotional state. There are experiments demonstrating that even the growth of bacteria is affected by human emotions, and that plants register measurable reactions to our emotional state. I mean, this is unbelievable. But again, our emotional state, our energy carries all of the power. So we know that just acknowledging that you have the power to impact your energy based on where your emotion is, that's where you're going to attract. So when you look at where you are in the context of love on the emotional scale, then you say, I really want to attract up here, but I'm down here. You can't do it. And I have so many examples of clients that I work with that we work through this together because we realize, in all honesty, where are they landing on the emotional scale? Are they in the low level vibration? And I ask them what they want, and they say, oh, I really want this person who's got all of this positive energy and these positive attributes and this emotional level. But it's not possible to get that person if you're down here. It's about taking ownership of the energy that you're carrying and recognizing it's there, it's present, and having the willingness to change and work through that through a lot of thought work, belief work, so that you can leap up to the level you want to attract, and you will. Just like an animal can sense your emotional level, a human being does too. And the other person you're seeking wants that same thing you want. They want the person that's higher vibration, joyful energy. And it's very possible to reach up there. So we're going to be talking about that more. The next thing I want to talk about is the lens I think is the most powerful from my experience with clients and my experience with my own love life. And of all the lenses that I can think about that I could be wearing in any given day when I'm thinking about love, the one that I think has the most power is the worthiness lens. And I could tell you, I have seen it so many times where I have a client who is so wonderful, so lovely, so kind. And when we dig deep enough, we realize the reason this person is not finding the partner that they really want is because there's a part of them that does not feel worthy of that love. And the worthiness is wildly powerful. That's the one that just attracts it so quickly. And because worthiness makes you magnetic. And I want to talk about this more because when women feel unworthy, they're settling for less than they want. They're overgiving because they don't really feel worthy of what they want. So they think, I'll overgive, and then I can deserve it. That's another issue. And the third one is they just feel grateful that they're chosen instead of feeling worthy of who they actually really want. They're settling for, oh, I feel chosen by this person. That's not self-worth. Self-worth is I really want this, and I am worthy of what I want, period. This is something we're going to be working on. Here's the truth. You don't become worthy when someone chooses you. You already are. And I wish there was a magical potion that women could take to really feel the worthiness. Another quote I want to share, who I think is just the most incredible teacher of worthiness, is Brene Brown. She's the one that gets as close as I can imagine to what worthiness means and how we can embrace it in our lives and our love lives too. And she says, no matter what gets done and how much is left undone, I am enough. It's going to bed at night thinking, yes, I am imperfect and vulnerable and sometimes afraid, but that doesn't change the truth that I am also brave and worthy of love and belonging. It's so deep, the feeling of worthiness. And I can say that that was the thing that blocked me for 14 years when I was single. There was a part of me that just did not feel I deserved what I wanted. I felt that there was something off with me. I was flawed. I had too many issues. I was too insecure. I could not attract what I wanted. I just deeply did not feel worthy. And the way I was able to click into worthiness is no shortcut. It was just daily work, working through those doubts, those beliefs that were hurting me, that were not true. And it's almost like taking a knot and like loosening the knot. And once I was able to loosen the knot by unraveling each of my doubts, each of the stories I was telling myself, when I was able to loosen it enough, what was left behind was the truth. And the truth is that I am worthy, and I was always worthy. I just didn't know it. And that's why I made some of the decisions I made and the choices I made that were not in alignment with that. They were resulting from my fears and doubts and insecurities and feelings of unworthiness. So when we're able to open it up and really look at those thoughts and beliefs and stories, we do find that to be true. And I've seen this with my clients, and they start to say, it's like a dawning. It's like a realization. Oh my God, I am worthy. It's kind of like that. It's like a sunrise. It's like the sun is rising and I'm realizing I'm worthy of this. And when you get it in your heart. You get it really deep. You realize I am worthy and I'm going to get it. And it's so crazy. You go from this feeling of doubt to this feeling of excitement because you know what's happening. So it's a really amazing process of the realization of worthiness. The reflection prompt I have for this is, if I fully believed I was already worthy, how would I show up differently in love? And I can tell you one thing for sure, is you would not ignore red flags. When there's a red flag, you're done because you're worthy of more. You're worthy of better. So the blind spots, the red flags are no more. And you say, I'm done. I'm not wasting my time. I'm worthy of having my time spent with someone who's worthy of being with me. And you just cut, and you stop wasting time. The next one is kind of the ultimate, which is becoming her, embodying the love you desire. So we did an exercise before in the second podcast I had about your future self. But your future self, the version of you who is already in the relationship you desire, is not a fantasy. She is a frequency and she lives within you. So the challenge is to get to know her and to embody her more and more, minute to minute, hour to hour, day to day. And it just nudges you closer and closer and closer. So the more you can close the gap between who you are now, who's had some challenges with love, to who you are over here, who has a beautiful, wonderful, fulfilling relationship with love, it just moves you closer and closer and closer so you can ultimately get there. And this version of yourself, like I said, lives within you. She's a frequency. She's an energy state. She is a lens. She sees clearly. She is worthy. And when you shift your perspective to align with her, everything changes. You date differently. You show up differently. You communicate clearly. You say yes and no with confidence. So this is another Jillian Turecki quote I love. Become the person who would attract the kind of relationship you want. You know you have it in your mind, like you know kind of what it is. As we play with the subconscious and we kind of let go and allow yourself to really dream big about what you want. And don't go small, go really big. Like, what is it that you want? And when you are embodying, you think, okay, this is what I want. What version of me attracts that? It's already inside of you. It's just raising your level, raising your frequency, raising your vibration. And this again goes back to James Clear, who I still love his work so much about habits, because a lot of this is habits. It's developing habits. And this is why the coaching piece is so good, because in coaching, it's self-discovery. Everyone has a different program, a different process that works for them. But the more you go through the habits, you become closer and closer to the goal. And James Clear says, every action you take is a vote for the type of person you wish to become. No single instance will transform your beliefs, but as the votes build up, so does the evidence of your new identity. This is one reason why meaningful change does not require a radical change. Small habits can make a meaningful difference by providing evidence of a new identity. And if a change is meaningful, it is actually big. That's the paradox of making small improvements. So it doesn't have to be overwhelming. It doesn't have to be, I'm going from here to woo, all the way up here. It doesn't have to be that. It's little deliberate change over time. And with coaching, it's great because I'm a coach. I partner with you. I'm there with you by your side, guiding, but also witnessing, helping you to stay accountable so that you are making those changes. You are taking small, deliberate changes in the direction of your dream and of who you can become, who's going to attract what you want. So what do you think? What do you think of all these things that I've shared with you today? Which one of these is the hardest for you to do? And which one is the easiest? And where do you want to start? So I'm going to give you an example. We're going to flip the lens and do a coaching exercise right now. Imagine there's someone you've been out with a few times and you like each other, or even you've gone out with them a couple months, and all of a sudden he stops texting for a few days. You think to yourself, I must have done something wrong. Why isn't he reaching out? So the old lens might be saying, I definitely did something wrong. I need to do something differently. I must not have kept him interested. It's a lot of negative thinking. Whereas the new lens might say, I trust myself. I know that I'm valuable. I know that my time and energy is valuable. If someone can't meet me with honesty, I honor that as information, not a reflection of my worth. The feeling of staying grounded in self-worth and self-trust in that situation, that is real-time lens work in action. You look at the situation that they're not reaching out through this lens, and then you look at it through this lens, and you make the move to this lens, and you see it here. You say, okay, this is actually a reflection of where they are. This has absolutely zero to do with my self-worth. My self-worth is very secure and stable inside of me. And you're able to move on more quickly or let it go more quickly or have a clear conversation and get the information you need. That's an example of how that can translate. So now wrapping up, I just want to ask you, so what if love is not something you chase, but something you tune into? When you shift your lens from fear to trust, from scarcity to worthiness, you change what becomes available to you. And I'm going to go back to my quote, which I love so much as the foundation of this podcast by Wayne Dyer. When you change the way you look at things, the things you look at change. So how did this resonate with you? Did you enjoy this? If so, I would love to work with you. You can click on the links below and book a free discovery call with me. Join me next week when we talk about the lens of authentic power, how to lead without losing yourself. This is a good one, and it can work in dating. It can work in all relationships in every area of your life. So I look forward to seeing you again next week. I hope you have a great one. See you again soon. Bye.